Greetings to everyone present here. My name is Miss Lesline Sunny, Department of Economics from the Bhopal School of Social Sciences. And today we are going to discuss a very important concept from macroeconomics, that is inflation and deflation. Today we are going to compare if inflation is good or deflation is better. Let us see what are the learning objectives. After this module, you will be able to understand about the meaning of inflation, meaning of deflation, and then we will also analyze which is better. Is inflation better or deflation better? And we will also analyze key statement of inflation and deflation, which states that inflation is unjust but deflation is inexpedient. Now, in a common parlance, we know that inflation means the price of the goods will increase and deflation means the prices are decreasing. In the right side of the screen, you can see a picture which denotes inflation and deflation. You can see here in the concept of inflation, you have to sacrifice 5 coins so that you can get a bunch of burger and fries. This is when inflation happens, that is, the prices are increasing. But in the case of deflation, you get the same product, same bunch by just spending 1 coin. So, if I ask you a question, in considering this scenario, is inflation better or deflation better? What will be your answer? I believe some of you might say that deflation is better because I have to just spend 1 coin and I get the same product. This is not the reality. In macroeconomic approach, deflation is much more worse than inflation, and today in this module we will discuss the points which proves the same. So, if I ask which is better, inflation is better or deflation is better, my answer will be both are evils for the society, but inflation is overall better as compared to deflation. Now let us understand the meaning of both the concepts one by one. So, as I told you that inflation refers to the situation whereby the prices of the goods are increasing and the value of money is decreasing. This is the situation of inflation. And if we talk about deflation, the opposite happens. It refers to the condition whereby the prices are decreasing and the value of money keeps on increasing. To justify that inflation is better, let us consider the following points. If I talk about inflation, in the situation of inflation, the prices rises. In the same way, the output which is produced by producer also increases. Because output is increasing, we need more and more people so that production can be possible. That is the reason why employment also increases. So, if employment is increasing, people will be able to earn income. So, this is the situation which happens in inflation. That is, though prices increase, production also increases. That is why more and more people are employed. If we talk about deflation, in deflation the opposite happens. That is, the prices fall. Because prices are falling, there is a chance that the entrepreneur may not be able to earn much profit. That is why he might not produce many amount of output. As we all know that entrepreneurs are driven by profit motive, because less profit is there, the output will be reduced. So, when we do not require too much production, it simply means that more people will not be required and hence employment also decreases and hence the overall income that is there also decreases. So we understand that at micro level we might feel that deflation is better, but at macro level deflation is much more worse than inflation. So this is the first scenario to understand that out of inflation and deflation, inflation stands better. Now let us understand in case of a businessman. Like when we talk about inflation, what is happening with businessmen? Always remember that in the case of inflation, businessmen are the ones who get maximum amount of profit, or they are the people who are benefited the most, because during inflation the profit also rises. Also, one more important thing that needs to be remembered is that during inflation there is a redistribution of income, but it is only for better off classes, which means that if there is an entrepreneur, there is a middle class person, and there are people who are from poor sections of the society, and all these people are in the period of inflation. Out of all these three people, the entrepreneurs will be the one who will be most benefited. Why? Because they are able to earn excess profit during inflation, but the same is not with middle class as well as poor people. Why? During the period of inflation, for sure, their income also rises, but it is not at par with the rate at which inflation rises, which means that if a poor person earned 100 rupees per day, maybe with inflation he will earn 150 rupees per day. But this difference is not sufficient if we understand the rate of inflation, and hence only the businessmen are profited. That is why when we talk about redistribution of income, it is only in case of better off classes. Further, when we talk about deflation, as we had discussed, with deflation comes unemployment because the demand of goods has reduced, and unemployment gives birth to poverty. Hence, we understand that conditions like poverty are too much difficult to handle. That is why out of inflation and deflation, considerably inflation is better. Also, from this point we understood that inflation is unjust because it is being profitable only to the rich section of the society. Now let us consider the third point, that it widens the gap between the rich and the poor. So from the picture itself you can understand that during the period of inflation, the entrepreneurs and the businessmen are in the condition to earn excess profit. But the same is not in case with a person who is poor or middle class. As I discussed earlier, their income also increases, but it is not at the rate at which inflation increases. That is why the gap between the rich and the poor widens. Also, one more important thing that we need to consider here is the opposite happens in case of deflation. In deflation, neither the rich is getting benefited, neither the poor will get benefited. Now next is the effect of inflation and deflation on business cycle. We all are aware that business cycle refers to the cyclical fluctuations that happen in the economy. It has periods of expansion, contraction, depression, among others. Why is inflation considered better in case of business cycle? Simple reason is that inflation happens in the economy after the economy has gained full employment. What is this full employment? It simply means all the people who are willing to work get the work, which means that maximum amount of people are employed in the economy, and then only inflation sets in. and that is why it is said that inflation is better as compared to deflation. But when does deflation occur in the economy? It happens during the period of depression. So it simply means that when we talk about deflation, there is nothing called full employment. Instead, there is underemployment in the economy. Because there is underemployment, after being so much into underemployment, even if the prices decrease, it will be of no use. So here we understand that inflation only happens after there is full employment in the economy, hence it becomes a positive factor. Next important factor that we have seen here is that deflation can lead to depression. As we had already discussed that when we talk about business cycle, deflation can happen in the period when depression is there in the economy, and hence unemployment can rise in the scenario. So when we talk about deflation, an entrepreneur is there, he can see that the prices of goods are falling, output has reduced, and he understands that the overall profit that he is able to earn has drastically reduced. So during this situation, some of the entrepreneurs decide that they shut down their own enterprises because of excessive loss. And here, during the period of deflation, it is seen that economic activities completely become stagnant. So that is the reason why major factories are locked out and some of them completely are in the condition where they are shut down. So we understand here that during the period of deflation, because the entrepreneur is not earning profit, he will shut down his business. Now the next point is inflation redistributes income and wealth in the favor of rich. As we had discussed earlier also, when we talk about inflation, only the entrepreneurs earn excessive profit and major income and wealth is only distributed to this section of the society. Hence, there is distribution of income for sure, but it is unjust. Moving forward, when we talk about deflation, deflation redistributes the income in the favor of poor people. As I said you, inflation distributes the income in favor of rich people, but deflation redistributes the income for poor people. Still it is useless. Why? Because even though this income is in the favor of poor people, most of them remain unemployed, and hence though deflation may seem favorable for poor section of the society, in reality it is much more harmful. Now with these points we have understood that out of inflation or deflation, inflation is better. We cannot say that inflation is something which will always be better. For sure it is unjust because it is profitable for entrepreneurs, but still out of inflation or deflation, if we have to choose one, inflation is better. Apart from that, for government also, it is easier for them to control inflation as compared to deflation by applying some monetary or fiscal policies. Also, one more important point to be considered here is inflation is not always bad if the inflation is a mild inflation. Mild inflation is necessary so that there is growth in the economy. But if there is condition like hyperinflation, which is not at all controllable, that is something which we have to be worried about. So when we talk about inflation, a mild inflation is always considered good for the economy. I hope that with these concepts you have understood that inflation is better as compared to deflation. I thank you all for your patience listening.